right, everybody. Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the War Room Podcast. I'm still your happy host this week, Andy, and a guy who is also somewhat a little bit happier, but still grumpy nonetheless. Over here, Rob. What's going on, Rob?
Hell of a win by you, man. Great work.
It was convincing the entire time. I felt good. That's all I got.
You 100% should. I did not expect that. I know you didn't expect that because you didn't expect to beat the Jets. But that was a hell of a game. Proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Reason I'm not too smiley here, I wanted to start off. I don't usually go into these type of things because it's not really my place, and this is a football podcast. But last week, for the country was quite the historic week. Obviously, we're all hearing about it on Twitter. It's all over the place. It's all anybody's really been talking about. It's so cool to see a group of people get together and accomplish something like this.
Oh God, I'm going to pause you.
But ladies and gentlemen, the Liberty Flames are 7-0, and Malik Willis.
I was almost going to pause you because I thought you were going to talk about the McRib.
I could.
Like the thing that brings people together, the news, and I'm like, oh my God, he's about to go McRib on me, isn't he?
Oh, Malik Willis, my God! It's November, early November. The Raiders have a playoff shot here, and I'm already obsessed with a mid-round to late-round flyer. I love him. Love him. Liberty Flames, bro. They
covered the spread. They covered the spread. They won a game that nobody said they would. I mean, excuse me, I make a correction. They didn't cover the spread. But, yeah, it was pretty cool.
He's fun to watch, dude. He has it. And by the way, his interviews are 10 out of 10. He is fantastic. I could listen to him all day. All day. It's great.
It was a big week in college football. There was definitely some good games to watch. I didn't stay up for the entire – I'll be the first to admit it because I have no skin in the game and I don't care for either team. Clemson, Notre Dame, I didn't stay up the entire time. I want to start watching Coastal Carolina more because Coastal Carolina's defense is amazing. Yeah, so I've heard. Plus their field will possibly cause you a seizure depending upon which angle the camera showed tonight.
That's true.
But – no, it's definitely a good week in college football, and it's sad because this week coming up, we're missing some big-time games due to this freaking COVID pandemic. So I know the SEC just announced that they're shutting down I think 3 different games this weekend. So just slaps us right back to reality, which sucks.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun. I have nothing else to add on that. I do want to start not necessarily today, but, in the weeks coming up, we're going to start chatting a little bit more about some of the college players coming out. And, like we talked about, we're not going to be talking much about Trevor Lawrence and stuff like that unless something funny happens with the Jets and they somehow Jets their way out of that pick. Then it could be a conversation.
God, I was watching the game last night, me and nobody else in the world, maybe you, just praying that the Jets were going to Jets this.
But yeah, that'll be something that we're going to be chatting about in the coming weeks. That'll definitely be a good time.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we'll also be talking about the different salary cap implications that are going to be coming into play and free space. Like right now, I mean, 3 of the top teams that have the most money next year are guys that are probably going to have a top 5 pick. So,
and the Jags are interesting, man, too, because they have 12 draft picks next year, and they're going to have over 100 million cap space. So
yeah, they got the most space, so they could be interesting, and they're going to have a new coach. So Dougie Fresh, Dougie Marrone, see you, bud.
Yeah, definitely. What are some of the what do you want to talk about? What are we doing?
I mean, I'll talk about last night just because – I mean, nobody else will. But the only thing that I want to talk about last night is for the simple fact that there is an undrafted stud that is playing the game that has sure hands, that is looking real fresh, real fly, even though the quarterback is complete dookie. And I'm going to talk about Jacoby Myers. Wide receiver for New England Patriots, undrafted out of North Carolina State. I mean, he's just putting up a numbers this year. I mean, he's showing that he can catch the ball. He's a 6'2", 200-pound wide receiver. He's not going to blow anybody off the line. He's not going to be an outside threat. He's not going to be a guy that's going to be a 1, 2, or 3. He's a good fourth option. I would say that he's, just to compare it to somebody, since if you haven't watched him that much yet, I'd say he's like a Nelson Aguilar type that could do, but a little bit more shorthanded. I mean, Nelson Aguilar is being shorthanded this year, but in the past he's known to just rub butter on his hands on the sideline and then get out there. But yeah, I mean,
he definitely could not catch a baby, by the way.
No, he absolutely could not.
Yeah.
That skit was hilarious, almost as good as the Leprechaun skit. But it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see what's going to happen with – I mean, he's going to be there in the future. New England has 0 wide receivers right now. The one guy that you were all obsessed with hasn't even played a down this year, it seems, because he's been injured every single day for the New England Patriots, and it's just sad. But, yeah, that's the one game I wanted to talk about. I mean –
I was crazy with N'Keal Harry. I did love me some N'Keal Harry. That was,
yeah.
I'm still not sold on the fact that he's this unreliable, I guess you could say. I'm not going down that road, but yeah, so far it's been quite the miss by me. Add it to the list.
It's tough to see, but I think as much as I don't want to say it because I could care less what the Patriots do, I think the Patriots right now, they can win a couple more games. You're not going to put yourself in the playoff spot because the NFL just voted in those 8 games where there's 8 playoff teams now. They need to just bench Cam. It's over. He looks terrible throwing the ball. He just doesn't look good. See what the rookie has, even though he's not a rookie. See what Stidham has, and go from there and draft, because the draft is going to be legit. There's some good top-tier quarterbacks with a guy from BYU coming on, and then the quarterback from North Carolina who's falling off the radar some because North Carolina's fallen off the radar. But it'll be interesting.
I'm not seeing I'm only like 2 games in, but I'm not seeing it with Mac Jones. There's a lot of talk about Mac Jones as potential first rounder. I don't get it. I don't. Again, I'm only 2 games in. I don't like to really make these type of statements until I'm at least 4 games in. But I'm just not seeing it right now.
And I'm the same way.
The one I do really like, and he did it again this weekend, is De'Ara King.
Miami?
Yeah. I liked him in Houston. I know a lot of people got pissed off with what he did as far as redshirt season, but man, I like him a lot. And I just don't see a lot of flaws to his game, especially with how the NFL is kind of molding into this, pistol / RPO, and it's been in there actually for a couple of years now, but almost a decade at this point. But man, he would just he's a great fit. I just don't see why he's not in this conversation of at least 2nd or 3rd round.
It's a weird QB class. I mean, people are flying up the boards and people are flying off the boards. I mean, like I said, the quarterback from North Carolina, Sam Howell, he was rated one of the top 4 quarterbacks, and now he's fallen off the board. And then Zach Wilson from BYU came out of absolute nowhere.
He looks great.
Oh, yeah, and he's rated the number 4, depending upon what board you look at.
I've seen him as high as 2.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen him as high as 2. I don't see that either. I'll be honest, and I'll probably get some flack for this, but if you take his knee injury out of it, I'm not fully sold that Trevor Lawrence is more talented than Justin Fields. If you take Fields' knee injury out of it, if that never happened, I'm not sure that I'm sold that Lawrence is better than him. If I'm a GM, obviously right now Lawrence is the pick because the knee is not we've seen RG3, we've seen these things happen. That's a risk. Not comparing him to RG3 and saying the knee injury is a big deal. You take that out of the equation, bro, I don't know that I necessarily think that Lawrence is better than him with how he's playing right now. He's pushing the ball, further down the field with confidence. His footwork is better. He was clearly, if you watch the games from last year, he's clearly favoring that knee. His push-off was completely, just derailed, essentially. Yeah. He's pushing the ball a lot better this year.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, I would agree with you in that standpoint. I mean, he's got more tools than Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Trevor Lawrence can be a runner when needed, but Fields can actually move around in the pocket, and he doesn't look to run as his first option. But Trevor Lawrence scares me when he goes to run, just because he hasn't been asked to do it. I mean, when you have Travis Etienne as your running back, you never have to run the ball. Like, if you panic, just turn around, find him. You could throw it backwards 20 yards, and he'll still gain 40. Like, he's that good.
Yeah.
It all depends on the system and scheme, and we know that that's going to happen. I mean, it sucks, but, like, look at Sam Darnold right now. Sam Darnold looked like a stud in college, looked like a can't-miss prospect coming to the pros.
And he'll be all pro with the Colts.
If he goes to I could see him going to the Steelers since Ben Roethlisberger, both his knees decided to give out in this last week's game.
I still want Jameis in Pittsburgh. I still want that.
Did you see him eating the dub?
Outstanding.
Oh, my God. He's dancing in the locker room, eating the dub, just running around eating the W.
The reason
– up, eat the W.
Love it. So the reason I brought that up, though, is that, you're going to be hearing a lot of – we're getting to the point of the year now when you have a prospect like Trevor Lawrence. People are going to start doing their thing, tank for Trevor. Yep. They're going to want their team, the Jaguars fans, all 4 of them in the country, Giants fans, Jets fans are already there. Those are the guys that are going to be upset when they don't have the first pick. Do not be upset with the number 2 pick. Do not.
Nope.
That is by no means that big of a drop. So,
no. I mean, it's going to be an interesting year, especially if the way the world looks right now when things don't clear up. It's going to be interesting to see. I already know, and I think this is true, and I could be wrong, so somebody fact-check me on it and let me know. I think the Shriner game got canceled. The Reese's Senior Bowl is still going on as of right now. So certain things are already starting to fall off again. Pro days, teams are going to be very, very, very particular on who they go to visit based upon protocol and X, Y, and Z. And then if the NFL Combine actually happens, it's going to be interesting to see if they invite as many people. So the problem is in the past, is like you and I have watched players that people were like, why is this person being invited to the NFL Combine? And we're like, oh, well, we've seen them before. They're good players. The world may not be able to see some of those particular players. So it's all going to be tough again, just to follow along with who's going where and what. So it'll be interesting. It'll definitely be interesting to see.
Yeah, I agree. One player I wanted to talk about, and shame on me for making it to this. What is this going to be, week 10? Man, Antonio Gibson, running back, Washington football team.
Thank you.
So when I almost said it again, when the football team released Adrian Peterson, a buddy of mine said, I guess it's going to be the Antonio Gibson show. I said, no possible way. He had 33 carries in college. His whole collegiate career, he had 33 carries.
Yep.
Wide receiver, a lot of teams were looking at him to be that chess piece, but I think a lot of people thought that he was going to be, that Cordero Patterson guy where you just put him all over the field. Man, he has 90 carries in 8 games. He's playing great, dude. He's playing really well. That's incredible to me. He had 33 carries his entire collegiate career.
Yeah.
That is not an easy transition. There's a lot. People do not realize how much vision and anticipation means to a running back, how important that is. Look at Trent Richardson. He had none of it. He could run through a brick wall, but he couldn't see anything. And look at how his career went. That takes a lot of time. It's incredible that he's doing this. It's incredible. Props to him.
It's going to be a true test for him next week. I mean, I feel really bad for Kyle Allen. That's a bad injury that he took. Alex Smith is now going to be the starting quarterback of the Washington football team. So this is where it becomes a true test. Carrying the ball is one thing. Seeing the vision, seeing the holes is another thing. You need to now protect a guy who almost died. Not even joking. Alex Smith literally almost died, and it's an amazing story seeing him come back. So he's going to need to learn to pick up blitz protections. He's going to need to understand, because Alex Smith will put him in the right spot. He's a smart quarterback. That's why he's still in the league, because his contract's ridiculous and they can't dump it yet. But he's going to need to learn to pick up blitz protections. He's going to need to learn to chip, and that's going to be tough to do. But who's to say he can't overcome it? I mean, he's overcome everything thus far, and he's looked good. He's looked good. I mean, they got pieces, man. They're not a slouch team. There's something that could be done with them in the future, I would say. I mean, they do need some better skill positions. I mean, they have Scary Terry at wide receiver, who's fantastic. They got your boy, Isaiah Wright, who you love.
Love him.
Absolutely love him. But then again, you got position players where I think their backup quarterback may be Logan Thomas, where Logan Thomas is also their starting tight end. So, and they're in second place in their division. I don't know. Who knows? It's weird. It is weird for sure. But, I mean, last week's games were kind of stale. I mean, nothing really crazy to talk about. I mean, the Steelers didn't look Steeler-esque. The play at the end of the Raiders game, I know we're not going to talk about Homer stuff, but the play at the end of the Raiders game upset me from one standpoint because I wanted you guys to win because it makes you happier and it's a lot easier to talk to when you're not grumpy. But the guy that went up for the catch was an XFL player, and I was just pulling for him. He's 6'7" or something like that. Like, dude, I was like, oh, like it's exactly what you go to the league for. You high point the ball, you get the ball, you come down, but he just couldn't come down and keep the possession. So,
yeah. It's, to be honest, I hate that rule. In my opinion, he had the ball inbounds. He hit the ground. He still had the ball. He didn't maintain possession through the roll. Like, I don't know. I'm happy, obviously. Like, I wanted to win the game, but and we've been victim of that numerous times. But to me, that's in my opinion, that's a catch. And I know by the rules it's not, but it's just my opinion. I don't know. And by the way, he's 6'8".
I shortchanged him.
He's a massive man.
Dude just died. Well, here, let me give you a stat line and let me see if you can figure this out. So this quarterback last week was 21 for 38, 243 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Name that QB. You got a shot clock of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I don't know.
Garrett Gilbert. The great guy that we were talking about last week that almost brought the lifeless Dallas Cowboys up against the number 1 team in the NFL and looked pretty good doing it. I mean, you give me that stat line against the number 1 team in the NFL right now with the number 1 defense, I would absolutely say you got to give the guy a shot again. Keep him going. Keep him rolling.
Absolutely.
Was Studley. I mean, he looked good. And whatchamacallit from Jacksonville looked good. I mean, they didn't win, Lutton, but they both put up decent stats for game 1. I mean, it's game 1. You're going out there, you're gunslinging. You're not that many – nobody has tape on you, so everyone's just playing you straight up. No crazy blitzes, no crazy schemes. But it was cool to see. I mean, that's what we look for in this type of podcast, where we want to find those players that shine that normally wouldn't shine. It's tough to in a year like this where not a lot of players on – rosters are getting shots because a lot of people are going with the vets and their practice squads are full of vets. But it's cool. It's cool for me to see at least. And none of them affects my Buffalo Bills, so I don't really care.
Sure. A team to me that has they're a lot better than I thought they were going to be honest. Carolina Panthers.
Oh yeah.
I understand they're 3-6. I get that. Fine. Man, they're not bad. They're really not bad. They really pushed the Chiefs this weekend. Like that could have been a loss.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a job, man. Teddy B has some balls, bro. My God, I love him. He puts it all on the table, everything. And I know they're not getting a ton of sacks. I think they only have like 7 this whole year, something like that. But that young defensive line too. Man, Derek Brown is awesome. Brian Burns is a stud. I know, again, they're going through their injuries and stuff with the Panthers, but they got some talent, dude. They got some pieces. They're only a couple pieces away. They're not far.
No, for sure. And they definitely have players that just haven't lived up to the potential. I mean, they have Gross Matos on the team right now who hasn't lived up to his potential. I mean, like you said, what's
It has
that?
to be long, though. You got to give him some time.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you got to remember these guys had no preseason too, so a lot of these guys are playing for the first time, and they're being thrown into the fire. I mean, Jackson, the cornerback, who's always been labeled out of LSU, just a speed guy. He was a stud. I mean, he still is a stud. They just have to find their rhythm, and the problem is, it's like everybody in the NFL. Everybody's been injured each week. COVID pieces in and out. You never know what chess pieces are coming back, but the only running back in the entire NFL that I would ever pay is Christian McCaffrey. And I mean, that's because I don't even label him a running back. I just label him a football. He's the guy that you recruit in high school coming to a college and you just write athlete, which I hate that designation when people recruit people and they just write athlete because it's like, makes no sense. But his first week back, and I think he rushed like 15 times and caught 10 passes. It's like, dude's a freak.
Yeah, he really is. I'm a big advocate for not paying running backs too. And it's no offense to them. It sucks because it's probably one of the top 5 positions that's going to get the biggest beating. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But man, it's so easy to find him. It's so easy to find him. My God, and you're not going to find one like Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I don't mean that. I'm not knocking him. Like he's the best in the league in my opinion.
Sure.
Man, there you can find a top 15 guy. It's all based upon your offensive line scheme. It's all based upon your position players' willingness to block. And honestly, again, that word vision of the running back. And also, another thing people don't talk about enough too, how valuable the quarterback and the center are for a running team. The center one he's finding those linebackers out. He's the one that's telling the quarterbacks who's the Mike, who's this. He's the one that's really picking apart that front seven. The quarterback's doing the same thing. They're communicating. Man, so many times you'll see a running back out wide, and then all of a sudden he's audible back, and it's a split set. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things that go into the running game, and man, Bridgewater's very good at it. Their offensive line's playing pretty good ball. They could find somebody if they wanted to. So I still don't know if I would have paid him, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up a great point with the center, though. The center it's crazy. You pay your left tackle a ton of money. Right tackles are starting to get paid a ton of money. Guards are getting paid nothing, and centers are getting paid okay. But the center, to your point, the center's communicating with the quarterback the entire time and yelling in the trenches to the guys. So, for instance, if you have a pulling guard on a particular place, your left guard's pulling to the right side, your center has to make sure he gets that initial first push. Otherwise, he's in the lap of the pulling guard, and your running back's just going to get completely blown up. And people don't realize that. And
or worse, your quarterback.
Exactly. And most of the time, too, you're going up against if somebody's playing in what everybody calls a 3-4, you have a big old nose tackle lined up directly over you. And what are you going to do? And then you also have the linebacker shooting the gaps. So you're basically hiking the ball, putting both arms out, and moving your body against their body forward. So it's extremely underrated. And the exchange is the same thing. I mean, if the quarterback knows he's about to get blown up on a handoff, the center has to get the ball out, get it in his hands quick. Otherwise, everyone gets stepped on and your quarterback dies. So
I would argue that the center is the second most important position on the team. I would argue that. That's how high I am on the center position.
On the offensive side of the ball?
No, I'd argue. Again, I'm not saying I'm 100% sold. I could put up an argument for it.
I like it. That draws me to think. Quarterbacks, of course, the number one. I don't know. That's a very good question. I would still have to say either left tackle or right tackle. Something about blocking the blind side, depending upon your quarterback.
But even there, so much of their alignment is predicated on the center.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But yeah, you got to find some. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good point. I was thinking middle linebacker or a linebacker in general, but no, you could change those.
10 years ago, that's the argument. I agree.
Yeah.
That's back when you needed that thumper in the run game.
And the communicator.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, so many teams now, it's not even the Mike linebacker calling the plays.
Yeah, it's safeties.
a lot of them but a lot of them have the Sam too because they're a little bit closer with the tight end and kind of seeing where they're going. But it's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
For sure. I mean, So we spent a lot on last week's game. What about this week's games? Anything unique? I mean, there's one game that's jumping off the page to me that I'm excited to watch just to see. I think the Chargers are very underrated.
They're a
They're a very good team. I think they're going to be great in the future. They play the Dolphins this weekend.
Yeah.
It's a 4:05 game, so I'll be watching it to some extent, but I'll still be watching the Bills game because they play late too. But I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see, one, the Chargers defense hasn't been anywhere near what the Chargers defense needs to be. The Miami Dolphins offensive line is good, not great. So I'm interested to see if they have a bounce back game there, and also to see what more can Tua take on his plate. Tua looks good, but the sample size is really small. He had one game where he didn't have to do anything. He had the Arizona Cardinals where it literally turns into a shootout because it looks like Arizona stops playing defense. So I'm interested to see what the Chargers can do with that particular game. And then Justin Herbert, just keep doing what you're doing, building on your resume that you currently have. So that's one game that's interesting to me. Is there anything that's showing up on you?
I to be honest, I mean, not really. I'm interested in the Buccaneers Panthers for what we were talking about before. The Panthers have really been playing good ball, a lot better than what their record shows, and the Bucs just got their asses kicked, man. Bad, really, really bad. And they're a fantastic team in my opinion. So I'm curious to see where that one goes because the Panthers are really going to have their hands full there. As stupid as it sounds, you got to have some interest in the Eagles and the Giants just because of the fact that it's such a big rivalry and it's ridiculous.
It's for first place.
Yeah, it's so stupid. But yeah, other than that, man, not really.
See, like I'm going to be interested in the Thursday night game because it's Thursday night football, so it gives me something to do and watch. It's the Colts Titans. Yeah, kind of. I guess.
If you want to know how important an offensive line is, watch the Colts. Because Philip Rivers is awful. He is terrible. Terrible. But he has a month and a half to throw a football. So you do you. Sorry.
And that's for first place in the division. So that's a pretty decent size game. I mean, I'm interested in Jacksonville against Green Bay. Will I watch it? Probably not, because I think it's going to turn into a bloodbath, and I don't really want to see that much carnage. But it's interesting. I think the cool thing that's coming up in the next couple of weeks, if I saw it correctly, I think they're going to start flexing games out on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be kind of cool. Just because I'm interested to see what's going to happen with those particular games, how they rival against college football, because college football is starting to get into the meat and potatoes of their season. So it'll be interesting.
I'm hearing a rumor. Highlight that word, rumor, because it's probably just somebody on Twitter that doesn't know what they're talking about.
Do they have a blue check?
No.
Oh, it's still probably true.
Yeah, it's true. Apparently, again, somebody comment and tell me I'm wrong, because I don't know how they would do this. There's a rumor of a free agent combine in January. Remember they did that a couple years ago where Michael Bush ran like a 7.4 and then basically said, "Oh, my career's over" on live TV. There's a rumor.
That the spring game?
No, it's again. I heard something about a free agent combine. So basically, it's like the NFL combine, but for free agents. I couldn't find anything on it at all. I Googled it. I couldn't find anything, but a couple people were talking about it on Twitter. So, hey, the 12 people listening to this, comment and let me know if I'm wrong.
I do remember that. I do remember that back in the past because I know the Buffalo Bills' second-round pick a while ago, Terrell Troop out of University of Central Florida, was in that, and he basically looked like he ate the people that ran the combine, and everyone was just like, "You can go stand to the side."
Yeah, Michael Bush was my favorite. He literally said in his interview when they told him what his 40 was, he goes, "Well, my career's over."
Yeah, I mean, makes sense.
That was incredible.
Makes freaking sense. But yeah, I mean, other than that, nothing too crazy coming out this week. I mean, a lot of late games were both the 4:05 game. You guys have the Broncos. This was the game that you had circled on your calendar that's above your bed right after you kissed the picture of Derek Carr goodnight, because you were worried about this game.
Whoa. I've been very very neutral on the infamous Derek Carr comment or opinion. Anyway, it's half of the Raider Nation thinks he's the worst thing to ever come into this world. The other half thinks that he's Moses. All right. I would never, and if my father heard you say what you just said, I would never have a picture of a man that wears eyeliner in my bedroom.
It's for the sun.
Never.
It's
No
for the
way.
sun.
No. I'm all in for an insult, bro. But damn.
But either way, this was the game you had circled that you were nervous about.
No, not really. I was when they were at full health. When they were
That's
at full
what I
health,
mean.
absolutely. Now I'm not that concerned. Now I'm sure I just jinxed it. But yeah, when you put Denver, when you give them all of their tools, and they've been hit with the injury bug, I'd say the 49ers are the only team that probably worse than them as far as injuries go. But man, they are just, when you give them everything, they got a lot of players, man, a lot of talent on that team, and they just haven't been able to utilize it because they're hurt. So yeah, absolutely. I thought Denver was one of the most underrated teams in the league going into this year. I didn't know why everybody was saying that the Chargers were the team that was going to be pushing Kansas City in the AFC West. I thought it was Denver. But again, we won't know because of injuries. But no, I'm fairly confident in this one.
That's good. I'm still not too confident on mine, but that's
So you never have been. So
no, that's to be expected. I think Kyler Murray's a great. We haven't played a good running quarterback. I mean, Russell Wilson is a great running quarterback, but he didn't. The scheme that they wrote up for him was, I don't understand it, but they didn't want him to run, so he didn't, and we took full advantage of it. And he didn't want to throw to DK, even though nobody can block DK because he's probably the greatest wide receiver in the league right now. They just didn't do that. But I'm worried about Murray right now in that regard. Their defense, I think, will put up a ton of points. I think it's going to be a shootout. Hopefully we can pull out on top. But, yeah, and, I mean, I don't even need you again this week for my survivor pick because I'm going with the Saints because the 49ers have 0 players on their team. So
is AJ Epinesa still on, like, that Jenny Craig diet? Is he down to 250 yet or what?
AJ Epinesa, he's going to be our kicker.
Is he? Good for him. I like that.
He's slimming down. He
might as well.
dressed. He dressed.
So stupid. I will never understand that.
Hey, I'm as bad of a pick he is. Great, tuck him away.
I think he's a bad pick. I don't understand what the hell you're doing to him.
Zach Moss, happy now that he's healthy. Gabriel Davis, happy. He's a good wide receiver. So, rest of the draft is whatever. Jake Fromm has been on the injury report since we started because we put him on a different field and tell him to play by himself just in case one of our quarterbacks gets COVID. Yeah, but I think with that being said, I think we hit our time for this particular week. So everybody make sure that you continue to support, continue to follow us. Twitter and Instagram is where you can find us. It's at _War Room 33.
If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe, notification, click the bell, and please, for the love of God, comment that there is going to be a free agent combine. Please tell me there's going to be a free agent combine. I would really appreciate that.
We'll sign Rob up. So we'll make that a thing.
I have to hit up AJ Epinesa then if that's the case. I got to drop about 70 pounds.
Nah, you're good. You're good. You're a hybrid. But all right, guys, appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Take it easy.